two, 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 one. We are on. On. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. All right, there we go. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Often Pacing Live. I am your host, Ray Catola of North American Harness Update, the internet's favorite harness racing handicapping show that airs Friday nights from 9 p.m. on SRN1 148.ca/1. But tonight, I am here to bring you the Canadian Cup final from Mohawk Racetrack. $1 million purse. I'm pretty sure this you can don't quote me on this. This is a regional stake. It's one of the new features that they added in a recent update to Often Pacing, where it's stakes races where only horses in that region can enter and compete in these finals. And $1 million, that's a pretty hefty purse to be going for, because last I checked, that's a lot of money. I don't have that much lying around. But also, before we get to that, that's 15 minutes away, we have a special guest to bring on, and he's being dialed in right now. He's a Canadian man whose phone should be ringing at this time to be on this broadcast. He is Mr. Bob Boyd. Bob Boyd, you there?
Yes, Trey, go ahead.
How's it going, Bob?
Doing pretty good, thanks.
Oh, that's good. I'm a little bit out there right now. I just woke up from my mid-afternoon nap. It's one of 5 naps I'm required to take.
Yeah, well, that happens to us older guys too. We used to get our nappers all day long too.
Oh, I guess that just means I'm growing up. Um,
Yes, exactly.
oh, that's scary. But you, Bob, I know a lot about you because I've been on Twitter for a pretty long time now. And one thing I know about you, not only are you an avid harness racing fan, former horseman, you were also the unofficial president, or maybe you're the official president now, of the Mark McDonald fan club. Did you get elected? Were you officiated yet into that position?
I elected myself, basically. I'm his Twitter agent, Bob. So it's the president of what, like the board is really small, so there's no arguing on the board.
I assume they meet around a coffee table, basically.
Exactly. No, I've been following Mark, I think, for about three years now. Well, I've been following longer, but on Twitter, I guess, just over 3 years. But yeah, he's actually got an agent tonight at Yonkers, so yeah, he's a busy boy.
And you're a busy Boyd. Because you're always out there. You're always tweeting. You're playing this. By the way, what is your stable on this game if anyone wants to compete with you? Because I know you also play.
Swift Run.
Of course, this the Swift Run stable, right?
That's right.
Now, what is there any kind of special origin behind that name?
Absolutely. I've been involved in harness racing all my whole life.
Hmm.
And then when I kind of walked away from it, maybe 97, for a few years, I bred and showed Jack Russell Terriers across North America, and our kennel name was Swift Run Terriers.
Okay.
So I thought the name, when we finished, stopped breeding and showing, and I kind of fell back into harness racing again. Like I say, I kind of fell away from it for a little bit, and I thought the Swift Run moniker kind of held up with regards to horse racing, so that's where I went with that.
Now I gotta ask because going from horse racing to dog breeding—that's a pretty big jump.
You know what? I actually used, when it came to breeding, it was all about the maternal side. I mean, with regards to dogs, too. So, I mean, it wasn't that big a jump, maybe 1,000-pound jump, but, I mean, when it came to dogs, it was all about the lineage, too, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, we bred some nice dogs, and it just ran its course, and I kind of fell back to my roots, which was horse racing.
So then, how when you stopped when you stopped working in horse racing, what why did you think to go into dogs? Because that's kind of interesting.
Geez, I don't know. It just kind of happened. We got a Jack Russell Terrier, and I said if we're gonna have him, he has to be obedience trained, and one thing led to another, and next thing I know, I have 15 dogs, 20 dogs, and we were showing conformation, and we were hunting with our Jack Russell, and it just, like I say, it just became a full-fledged hobby, I guess.
And so before that, was horse racing a hobby too, or were you doing that professionally?
No, our family always did it as a hobby. I mean, I owned and trained and drove, but more as a hobby. Um, my last horse really was in '96. He was racing with, I don't know if you remember Joe Stutzman, that's who I had him shipped out with. And
Okay.
when he got claimed, that was my last horse. Now, when I say I fell it back into it over Twitter, following my nephew Nick Boyd, who drives, and a bunch of other drivers. I actually kind of fell in with Anthony McDonald's stable here recently,
Oh
and
yeah.
got to share with him, kind of get my feet wet again with horses. So that's going to be an interesting ride.
And Twitter mainly brought you back into the sport, I take it then.
Well, my nephew was, but it kind
Mm.
of connected us back up, where I could follow him. I follow, there's a few people, Jonas Zernzon, like say Mark, pretty religiously, I would say. I follow Mark and Jonas all the time, and my nephew, Lauren House, as well. But, yeah, Twitter kind of is a platform, right? You can reach out and meet up with a lot of people. And last year I traveled a lot to the Meadowlands of the British Crown and Hemel and stuff like that. And that was the first for me to go to, not to go to the States, but to go to the Hemel and the British Crown. But and met up with some people that you actually communicate with over Twitter, right? So it was kind of interesting.
I see. You went to the Hambo and you didn't want to meet me. I get
You're so busy. I mean, I'm just a
it.
small fry compared to you, right?
That's very touching, Bob. That makes it sound like I do way more than I actually do. Uh, so then, when did you first start in horse racing? Because you said '96 was around the last time before you went into that gap. When did you first get into the sport? Because your family owned horses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
1970, I guess.
Okay.
And my very, like I say, we owned and trained. We were gone every weekend. Like I say, it was just we had 3 or 4 horses. We'd race, on the smaller tracks, and you know, I don't know if you how well you know Canada, but we'd race on Greenwood,
Hmm.
Kawartha Down, the old Barrie track, that type of thing. Just like I say, it was a hobby more than anything. And I did my first drive in '83 at Greenwood, which I won, which was a big thing for me because that was the well called the Ontario Jockey Club back then, which is WEG today, right?
Okay.
But like I said, I knew I wasn't going to be a driver because you have to drive every day of the week, 5, 6, 7 drives a night, right? And I had a pretty secure job, so it was a pretty hard leap to go to full-time harness racing, and unless you're training bunch and driving all the time.
Hmm.
So
So,
I mean, like I say, I love harness racing. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, it's more of a dedication than it is a real job.
that also goes for most vocations too, no doubt. But the one thing I'm curious about then is going back in your experiences in harness racing, because you get to enjoy it a bit more since it's not really a life or death kind of thing where you're trying to pay the bills and such purely on harness racing. So right now what's the fondest memory you have of harness racing when you worked in it?
Well, like I say, the culmination of getting my license, which and winning that night. I mean, like I said, I was in against the WEG drivers back then, which would be Doug Brown and that type. If I'm not sure if you know them, but
Mm-hmm.
winning that night, and the thing was, my two brothers were there, and my younger brother had just won his first drive at Kawartha a month before, and he comes up and says, "Oh my God, you want to hear it?" And it's just kind of one of those moments in life when you won't forget. And I still remember the night. So I mean, it was cold. It was December up here. So and yeah, it was kind of one of those sweet moments.
Let's talk some off and pacing a bit. How did you hear about the game when it first came out?
Well, I saw the talk on Twitter, and then I started asking my nephew about it, and Nick Boyd, and he says, yeah, it's basically a harness racing game made for mobile devices. And then I contacted Ryan, because I actually was about 2 or 3 months. I'd seen him kind of posted here and there. It was probably just getting off the ground then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of curiosity got the best of me, and I contacted Ryan and said, interested in getting on the game. And the next thing I'd really like to be a driver on the game. And he set that up for me, and it kind of took off from there. And to be honest, right now, like I say, I've actually met a couple guys. One's a young guy from upstate New York, Hunter Baxter Aka, the Sloth, and Rich Baroba, who was Giggity Giggity, probably one of the best mares in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Best so she retired. Too. And we have a little private group on Twitter where every time we're on Twitter, the three of us are talking about the game, about our horses, about what we have coming up, with regards to foals and yearlings and blah, blah, blah. And so it's made it a lot of fun with, reaching out and touching base. Like I say, Hunter didn't really know a lot about the game when it first came out. So I always called him my young apprentice or grasshopper. But now he's checked out where he can run with the best of them right now. So, and Rich is looking for his next Giggity.
Which that's asking a lot. That was some.
He's got some nice horses. I mean, it's going to be hard to replace her. I mean, she was. I mean, that's how him and I really first became. I mean, all of a sudden, him and I were talking one day, and he said, "Oh, you're driving my horse." And I looked, and I didn't really realize that she was that good until I started looking at, it was just win, in her early days, and she won a lot of races.
When it comes to your strategy in running your stable, what do you think is the most successful route to take?
Well, I've been trying to, I've got up quite a few mares, and I've been trying to breed the next Giggity, but it comes down, I mean, we've been discussing it, about, there's the bars, the speed bar. The speed bar, they can say about the other bars, but yeah, almost, the utmost important is the speed bar. It has to get into that, what I call the fourth quadrant. If you could break the bars up into 1, 2, 3, like in a quarters,
Mm-hmm.
it gets up into there. The other bars, yes, they matter, but if you don't have that speed bar up there, your horse is going to be common. And actually, I was talking to another player there the other day, and him and I were discussing, and I had one exactly like that. His speed bar creeped up into the fourth quadrant, but the other bars were just so, and his 1 in 45, and I said, here's a prime example. I've had others with all green bars, but the speed bar was not up there towards the top end, and they were no good. And here's one that's got a really decent speed bar and just kind of so other bars, not even green, yellow, and it's really come alive here in the last 2 or 3, maybe the last week. So, I mean, I try to look for horses that are have decent speed bars, and I've just actually had a couple here recently where I noticed that with age, this one breed I have is really picked up.
Oh, okay. So then, In terms of advice to new players, with a minute until this race from Mohawk, what advice would you give to a player just starting the game right now?
Don't be afraid to ask. You know, like there's players that have been around, like Dirk Berger and Hostetler, Jay and that. Don't be afraid to ask, questions about the game. Just like when Hunter came on, I mean, he had some questions and we talked privately. Actually, we talked openly on Twitter, and then we had this group where we jumped into a private conversation and just talked about the kind of horses that he should be looking for. I mean, even when you go to buy one in the auction, right? Sometimes they would concentrate, they got a great stamina bar or something like that. Well, that's all right. I gotta, try to encourage them which direction to go with regards to bars, that, and how much money to spend on them. And I mean, it can get pricey with regard to coins for a new person because there's some high-end guys that can buy up the decent ones, but they're out there. I mean, I've got a really nice one from Dan, that worked out pretty good for me too.
Well, Bob, thank you for joining us. We got to roll right into the $1 million Canadian Cup. Bob Boyd, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Ray.
All right, you take care now, Bob.
Okay, bye.
Meanwhile, we catch the Canadian Cup as it's off and pacing. Kat McKaylee from the center takes the front, parked out then. Dank Ridgeling 3 wide past that first eighth, and we have now to take the lead from her stablemate. Dank Ridgeling moving into that first turn in front of Kat McKaylee in second. Outside wide, no jockey needed from post 10, advancing towards the lead off a 26-2 opening quarter. No jockey needed now, circling to the front. On his back, JMC Arlene moving up towards second, matching strides with Dank Ridgeling pacing in that pocket third. Kat McKaylee is pacing fourth in front of Anne of Green Gables fifth. Sixth comes BB Blues Girl in front of Dank Titus seventh. Eighth comes Black Train Blues, followed by Don't Run Just Hide, and trailing the field, Ma Kettle. Half mile bound, 54 seconds that clip. JMC Arlene leads, no jockey needed, moving into that far turn of length. Third then Dank Ridgeling out of sixth. First over BB Blues Girl on his back, then Dank Titus second over. Gapping cover moving out third over. Don't Run Just Hide as they come on to three quarters. BB Blues Girl is trying to reel in JMC Arlene on the front, a half length away now, matching strides with the leader, taking a narrow lead to three quarters. It's BB Blues Girl in front. BB Blues Girl from JMC Arlene to the inside. Dank Titus right in behind, now uncovered as they go by three quarters in 1:21 4. BB Blues Girl turns for home in front. JMC Arlene's locked in as Dank Titus parks to the outside. Three wide comes Don't Run Just Hide off cover. Dank Ridgeling looking for room, then deeper on the track, Black Train Blues. Deep stretch. BB Blues Girl holding the lead. Dank Titus flying late. Dank Titus too short as BB Blues Girl holds on to win from Dank Titus, then Black Train Blues, and no jockey needed in 1:46 3. I gotta say, every time I call one of these races, the finish line comes. It's always a surprise. It's always a surprise for me when that finish line comes, and because it's usually when there's one more move happening, one more pivotal move in the race. Anyway, that was BB Blues Girl winning the Canadian Cup for owner Bell Ringer Wins Stable. That's a $1 million race, $500,000 to BB Blues Girl. Dank Racing, that's Jay Hochstetler second there with Dank Titus at the line. His other two horses, Kat McKaylee, Dank Ridgeling, both raced very well. And that's all there is to say about that. I have been Ray Catola. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Off and Pacing Live. Thanks again to Bob Boyd for coming on to join us. He is Swift Run Stable on the game, which you can download on the Apple App Store, in Google Play. If you want to join the fun right now, you can find Bob Boyd on Twitter. I think he's at Swift Run Terrier. I'm at Ray Catola. The game's at and Pacing, and you can follow the show that I do every week at NA Harness Update right now on Twitter. We're not on the air right now. We're on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on SRN1 148.ca/1. But until then, have fun with your virtual horses and make sure that you make them winning ones. I've been Ray Catolo. I will continue to be Ray Catolo another time, but until that time, I bid you farewell.